A carafe that is a blind glass. A kind in glass and a cousin, a spectacle and nothing strange, a single heart color and an arrangement in a system to pointing. All this and not ordinary, not unordered in not resembling. The difference is spreading.
Thank you. Okay, so our job, one by one, is just to pick a phrase or maybe even a word and just say something about that phrase, starting with Miranda, followed by Allie Castleman.
So just to pick up on what Dan just mentioned about derailment, which really got to me, I find that concept is a really good way to follow what is being traced through this, because when I follow through this, I feel as if I'm being derailed from the usual way of understanding the language stream. And I find that really powerful, and it's a step to that which is not ordinary, that which feels extraordinary as there's this kind of derailment.
Thank you so much. Okay, Allie Castleman and then Sophia. Allie, pick a phrase or even just a word and talk about it, and then Sophia.
I'm really drawn to spectacle right now, both in kind of the connotation of glass and as in like glasses, and how like sight and vision lets you experience a spectacle. And so there's a kind of nice, I don't know, like mirroring that's like happening in that world, or like two word or two-sidedness to it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Allie. Sophia, and we will turn to Jacob next, if Jacob is willing.
I'm thinking about blind in perhaps a new way than I've considered before. I'm thinking about the glass as blind to what it contains, and it just being this vessel for something that other people enjoy, and it's filled and then emptied constantly. So it's used, but it doesn't necessarily like reap the benefits of whatever it's being used for. And I'm thinking about that in connection with this, with Dan's use of Parmesan. Like, even if it doesn't fit in a sentence, even if it doesn't belong according to others, it's the pleasure of just being able to say it and express it.
Right.
And the glass doesn't necessarily have like the authority of that pleasure because it's constantly just being used.
Perfect. Jacob, and then let's turn to Andrew, and then I'll turn back to Dan. Dan, just to give you some notice, turn to you for any thoughts generally about where this conversation is going. So Jacob first.
Wonderful. Yeah, like Dan was saying, I was kind of thinking about derailment, not unordered and not resembling. To me, kind of speaks to maybe an artful derailment. I mean, I don't think that, like the word Parmesan, it's necessarily a random derailment. I think it probably does have maybe an element of constructedness to it. And like you said about intent, some sort of deliberation behind it as well. And so not unordered and not resembling kind of speaks to me, okay, maybe it's not aleatory entirely. Maybe it's kind of intentional in a way.
Thank you, Jacob. While you have the mic, how did you connect with us? What's your situation?
My situation?
Yeah. Wasn't quite the right word.
Definitely, you know what? Feeling like in me the difference is spreading somewhat. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Totally avoided
Maybe
the question. Brilliant. Way to go. Okay, I think Andrew, followed by Dan Bergman.
I also selected not unordered and not resembling. So just to add to the previous remark, I'm totally interested in the difference between something that is unordered and disordered, and thinking about disordering as a kind of alternative ordering or reordering that is not unordered or something like that. Also, with respect to resemblance, I'm interested in the kind of notion of a semblance that is a presentation that is not a representation, or what the difference is between the kind of verisimilitude and difference or something like that.
Yeah, fantastic. semblance and resemblance. The difference is spreading. Fantastic. Okay, Dan Bergman, do you have a final thought on this?
Dan says, the conversation is unordered, but I am enjoying what it is resembling. Also note the similarity between resembling and reassembling.
Yes. That's great, Dan. So, Lainey, the difference is spreading. Why don't you have the final word on this poem before we turn to another one? What is the difference is spreading? I mean, it sounds almost like a programmatic statement. I mean, Gertrude's like, yeah, the difference is spreading, let's do it. Kate's looking at me like, oh, he's so weird.
There is no final word, obviously. But I'm still thinking about Holly's comment about the carafe being the difference between the wine and being all over the table. And it creates this really complicated visual system in which the carafe gives the wine a form that the wine doesn't have. And in a way, I feel like it mirrors something that Stein is doing with syntax and language, creating new pathways for us to consider how language works.
Thank you.